In this presentation, we'll cover the definition of public administration, state and local government structures, the similarities between public and private administration, and how these things relate to the study of public administration. Public administration can be defined as all processes, organizations, and individuals acting in official positions associated with carrying out laws and other rules adopted or issued by legislatures, executives, and the courts. The people we focus on in this course are those who implement laws and rules, not make them. These are generally people in unelected positions in charge of making decisions on the day-to-day operation of government. For example, the people elected to your local school board are not public administrators, but the school superintendent is a public administrator. Members of the city council are not, but your local fire chief and police chief are. Generally, when we talk about public administrators, we're talking about the unelected bureaucrats that are in management positions at either the federal, state, or local level. Other actors outside of these roles can participate in public administration too, of course. In addition, public employees, such as police officers, firefighters, or teachers, are sometimes referred to as street-level bureaucrats. The politics of administration involves agency interactions with those outside of the formal structures, as well as interactions among those within administrative agencies. Although sometimes used interchangeably, public administration and public management are not quite the same. Managerial aspects of public administration have their primary focus on the internal workings of government agencies, including the structure, dynamics, and processes connected with operating government programs. There are more than 88,000 governments in the United States, and most of them are local governments such as cities, counties, townships, or school or special districts. Despite the large number of governments, over 90% of all public agencies are comprised of fewer than 50 employees. Larger cities, like New York or Chicago, have bureaucratic arrangements that are not unlike those in state and national governments. There is a great deal of administrative specialization, a directly elected chief executive, and a complex structure of bureaucracy. Local governments are less complex, but frequently are influenced more heavily by local party politics and decision-making. Local government activity is also more heavily oriented on providing essential services like water, sewage disposal, and police and fire protection. There is some debate over the degree of differences between public organizations and private organizations. The lines between public organizations and private organizations have arguably blurred as public organizations align their goals with that of private organizations. Public and private organizations do face a lot of the same challenges, and they have some similar characteristics. Both public and private organizations have an interest in running programs and other activities that are properly designed, appropriately directed to meet their intended goals, efficient in the use of their organizational resources, and effective in terms of results. Both private and public organizations are concerned with staffing needs, motivating subordinates, obtaining financing, and generally operating in a way to promote their survival. However, there are some key differences between public and private organizations. Private organizations can operate on a basis of clear exchanges. Customers want a product, and private organizations provide that product. Private organizations do not have to think about customers outside of their target market. On the other hand, in the public sector, organizations have to operate and provide services on a collective basis. They have to consider what is collectively best for their communities. Also, private organizations can pursue their own set of goals, and they can change their focus if they wish. The Apple Corporation can choose what their mission is and which markets they want to compete in. And their measure of success is pretty clear: profit. The Ford Motor Company can choose to focus on production of trucks and SUVs instead of sedans. Public organizations don't have this kind of freedom in setting their mission or their goals. The public sector has to pursue goals set by legislatures, and they have little freedom to alter those organizational goals. Public organizations also have a virtual monopoly on providing essential services, which can lead to less than satisfactory performance at times. Some functions are also provided by nonprofit agencies, and in terms of essential services, many times it makes little sense for private organizations to try to compete given the goals of the public organizations. Additionally, public organizations operate in a fishbowl. They cannot focus only on efficiency and getting results, but instead they have to build consensus among elected officials, the general public, and other organizations in order to obtain desirable results. Everything discussed to this point has been important in defining what we are studying when we study public administration. Now we have to turn our focus to some key concepts from the early study of public administration. If you did not already know this, President Woodrow Wilson is the only president in U.S. history to have earned a PhD. Prior to being president, Wilson proposed what became the politics-administration dichotomy. In his work from the 1880s, The Study of Administration, Wilson wrote that administration is removed from the hurry and strife of politics. Administrative questions are not political questions. Although politics sets the tasks for administration, it should not be suffered to manipulate its offices. The concept of this dichotomy divides politics and policymaking from policy implementation and public administration. The bureaucracy was to administer, in an impartial and non-political fashion, the programs created by the legislative branch. In some ways, you can see what is meant by this proposed dichotomy. A visit to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, or Department of Motor Vehicles in many states, is largely a non-political experience. The bureaucrats working there do not ask citizens about their voting history or campaign contributions, and service is provided equally to Republicans and Democrats. The fire chief doesn't check your voter registration before responding to a call at your house. The idea here is that politics influence lawmaking, but not in the administration and implementation of those laws. Luther Gulick and Lyndall Urwick proposed POSCORB in their work, Papers on the Science of Administration. This stands for the 7 principles that they emphasize as important principles of administration that applied to almost any human organization. The principles are planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting. The arguable applicability of these principles suggests that administration is separate from politics, and that the difference between private and public organizations discussed earlier are not particularly important. However, the idea that politics are separate from administration and that private and public organizations have only negligible differences is certainly contested. Politics undoubtedly influences the work of bureaucrats, and it's reasonable to argue that it should. If our public administrators and street-level bureaucrats focused only on their own expertise and efficiency and were completely isolated from politics, how would they then argue that they are serving the public in a way that is consistent with democracy? When it comes to the field of public administration, the study of public administration is definitely not separate from other related fields like political science. It is often very difficult to ask interesting questions examining public administration without discussing the role of politics. Scholars of public administration earn their degrees in public administration, public policy, or political science, depending on the organization of the school they attend. Here at BGSU, our Department of Political Science includes scholars that conduct research in public administration and public policy. We teach in the Political Science Bachelor's Program, but we also have a Master of Public Administration program. The organization of our department is not uncommon and demonstrates that the study of public administration is difficult to separate from political science. In this presentation, we covered the important foundational concepts of public administration, including the definition of public administration, state and local organizations, private sector and public sector similarities and differences, and public administration as a field of study.